We live in a world where manipulation is rarely noticed until it's too late. People silently influence our choices, using emotions, words, and gestures to shape our decisions. Centuries ago, Machiavelli already understood this invisible mechanism, revealing the true essence of human relationships, where hidden interests and silent motivations drive the game. It's not about becoming insensitive, but about gaining the freedom to decide for yourself. Because once you understand how the game works, no one else holds the reins of your mind. There is a comforting idea that many people carry, that deep down, everyone has good intentions, and that it's enough to act with kindness to receive kindness in return. It's a reassuring thought, but a dangerous one. Machiavelli knew that human beings are driven above all by self-interest. Modern psychology, especially evolutionary psychology, confirms that self-preservation and the pursuit of personal advantage are deeply rooted in human behavior. This doesn't mean that everyone is cruel or incapable of altruism, but that when a situation puts interest and morality in conflict, it's common for interest to win. This is the part many prefer to ignore because it clashes with the romantic view they have of people. The problem is that blindly believing in universal goodness opens the door to manipulation. When you start from the assumption that no one would do harm without reason, you automatically lower your guard, and those who want to influence you negatively know how to exploit that. It could be a coworker who hides competition under the guise of friendship, a partner who uses affection to gain control, or even leaders and public figures who use inspiring speeches to guide crowds according to their own interests. The more you want to believe that everyone is driven by the same sense of justice as you, the more vulnerable you become to those who know that isn't true. Social psychology shows that the human brain has a bias called the confirmation bias. We tend to seek and accept only the information that reinforces what we already believe. So, if you believe that everyone acts with good intentions, you'll interpret suspicious signs as misunderstandings rather than warnings. This creates a cycle of naivety where the signs of manipulation are ignored until it's too late. Machiavelli broke this cycle because he faced the world as it is, not as he wished it to be. He understood that people, when under pressure, prioritize their own needs, and that in politics or in life, expecting otherwise is exposing yourself to the inevitable blow. Accepting this truth is painful at first, because it means abandoning certain illusions, but it's also liberating, because it prevents you from living at the mercy of someone else's narrative. It's like taking off a blindfold and realizing that, although there are genuinely good people, there are also those who move only for their own benefit, and who won't hesitate to use your trust as a tool. Knowing this doesn't mean distrusting everyone, but learning to evaluate every gesture and word with a critical eye. It means understanding that, in the human game, appearance and intention don't always walk together. And to perceive this clearly, it's necessary to master the art of observing what lies behind the emotions they try to awaken in you. Which brings us to the importance of looking at the world with strategic coldness. Most people live immersed in their own emotions, reacting to what happens immediately, as if they were at the center of a whirlwind. The problem is that when you're inside the storm, your vision is limited. You only see the rain falling, the wind blowing, and you can't perceive the full picture. It's at this point that clarity is lost, and often without realizing it, you hand over control of your own decisions. Machiavelli, like other great thinkers and strategists, advocated the need to distance yourself emotionally from situations in order to see them more clearly. This skill doesn't mean ignoring what you feel, but understanding that emotion, when not filtered by reason, is fertile ground for manipulation. In psychology, this connects to the concept of cognitive distancing, the ability to mentally step out of the scene and observe what's happening as if you were a spectator, not a participant blinded by the intensity of the moment. When you adopt this external perspective, you stop being a hostage to the narrative being presented and start seeing the subtext, the hidden interests, and the possible traps. You begin to notice what is truly at stake without getting lost in superficial details. It's as if you climb to a high vantage point and from there could see the full map, realizing that not all paths lead to the destination they promise. This distancing is uncomfortable at first because it goes against the natural impulse to react in the heat of the moment. But with practice, It becomes one of the most powerful weapons against any attempt at undue influence. After all, those who see from the outside have a better chance of predicting the next move and avoiding falling into the plays of those who want to control the game. And it's precisely from this expanded vision that it becomes possible to access a more advanced level of perception, reading the hidden intentions that hide behind words and gestures that seem harmless. At this point, the game is no longer invisible to you. This outside perspective is not insensitive coldness, but strategy. When you can analyze a problem or a relationship without being swallowed by anger, fear, or excessive excitement, you notice things that previously went unnoticed. Inconsistencies in words, hidden interests, subtle changes in behavior. A manipulator, for example, depends on your automatic reaction to maintain control. They want you to respond quickly, without thinking. By putting yourself in the role of observer, you break the rhythm they're trying to impose and gain time to think. Behavioral psychology shows that our decisions are strongly influenced by the emotional state we're in at the moment of choice. When afraid, we tend to be more conservative. When euphoric, more impulsive. The outside perspective serves as an antidote to this. It prevents the emotion of the moment from being the main driver of your decisions. You give yourself the space to ask, what's really happening here? What's the interest behind it? If I were on the outside, what would I tell myself to do? Many successful leaders and negotiators use this method intuitively. They know that whoever panics first loses the advantage. This posture doesn't mean the absence of feelings, but the mastery over them. You feel, but you don't let yourself be guided blindly. And as you train this skill, you start to notice patterns in people, patterns that reveal more than their words alone. Having the outside perspective is like being on the game board, while at the same time being able to see it from above. You understand the pieces, anticipate the moves, and avoid falling into traps. But to maintain this clarity, you must learn to read appearances and understand that, in the real world, they carry as much weight as reality itself. Much of what happens between people is not spoken openly. There is always an invisible layer of communication, gestures, expressions, pauses, intonations, word choices, that reveal more than any direct speech. Machiavelli knew this and used observation as a weapon. He understood that true power lies in noticing not only what is said, but how it is said, and especially what is left unsaid. Modern psychology calls this non-verbal communication and subtext. It is in this space, between the words, that true intentions often appear. When someone wants to manipulate, they rarely lay out their strategy explicitly. On the contrary, they wrap their intentions in seductive speeches, plausible justifications, and pleasant promises. But the body and the tone of voice almost always escape total control. A slight mismatch between words and behavior can expose a lie or a hidden agenda. The micro-expression that lasts for fractions of a second, the sudden change in posture, the careful choice of terms that avoid direct commitments, all of these are clues for those who know how to observe. Behavioral psychology points out that even when we try to hide feelings or intentions, parts of the brain linked to emotional expression act automatically. This means the manipulator may control what they say, but not always how they say it. Here is where hidden reading becomes powerful. You stop reacting only to content and begin to analyze context, subtleties, what seems too small to matter, but which combined forms a complete picture. Training this skill requires patience and silence. You must listen more than you speak. Observe before acting. Many fall into the trap of trying to win a conversation by speaking louder or responding quickly, but those who master hidden reading know that the advantage lies in gathering information before taking a stand. This is not passivity, it's preparation. Over time, this skill becomes a natural shield against manipulation. You begin to see the script behind the words, the intentions disguised as kindness or urgency, and you notice when you are being led toward a decision that wouldn't have originated from you. But understanding the signals is only half the path. The other half is learning to control your own reactions so that no one can read and exploit you with the same ease. Many confuse coldness with indifference, but the coldness Machiavelli spoke of is something else entirely. It is not about not feeling. It is about not allowing feelings to dictate your every move. It is the ability, even in the face of provocation or a seductive proposal, to keep the mind in command. Psychology calls this emotional self-regulation, the ability to recognize your emotions without being swept away by them. When someone wants to manipulate you, the quickest path is to trigger emotional buttons. It could be guilt, so you feel obligated to give in; fear, so you act on impulse; or excitement, so you commit without thinking. Strategic coldness neutralizes these shortcuts. When you notice the emotion rising, you pause, analyze, and decide whether or not to act, instead of reacting automatically. Neuroscience studies show that when the amygdala, the part of the brain linked to emotional reactions, takes control, our ability to reason drops dramatically. This is why, under pressure, many say or do things they later regret. The manipulator knows this and engineers situations to provoke exactly that loss of clarity. In this context, coldness is like staying on the riverbank. You see the water flowing, feel its force, but choose not to be swept away. Maintaining this state does not mean becoming distant or emotionally frozen in all relationships. On the contrary, it means being fully present with conscious awareness. It's about remaining connected to your emotions without allowing them to take the wheel. You still feel, but you feel lucidly, choosing what to do with each emotion before letting it turn into action. This doesn't kill sensitivity. It sharpens it, because you stop acting on autopilot and start acting intentionally. Others perceive this posture almost instinctively. People who do not react impulsively convey a sense of steadiness and strength. They become hard to manipulate because they do not get dragged into the drama of the moment or emotional pressure. And that is precisely why they earn respect. In social psychology, there is an effect called silent power. When someone maintains self-control, others tend to see them as more capable of leading and making critical decisions. This kind of presence changes the dynamics of relationships. You stop being a piece moved whenever the board is shaken by others, and become a player who evaluates every step before advancing. And once people notice this, they naturally think twice before trying to influence you dishonestly. Lucid coldness does not push people away. It filters. It repels those who would take advantage and attracts those who respect you. This is the foundation of solid influence, one that depends neither on intimidation nor on active manipulation, but on the simple fact of silently conveying that you will not be easily led. When you learn this, something changes forever. The game ceases to be invisible. You notice when someone tries to plant fear, urgency, or doubt in your mind. You begin to distinguish genuineness from manipulation as easily as you distinguish light from shadow. And the moment you see with such clarity, no one else controls your decisions. As Machiavelli said, men forget the death of their father more quickly than the loss of their inheritance. He knew, and now you know as well, that the greatest freedom is to understand the human game and choose whether or not to play it.